In the mountains of Japan, travelers spoke of a stretch of road so feared, even armed escorts refused to cross it after dark. One night, a lone monk chose to sleep there anyway. By morning, he would walk into town carrying something so disturbing, the entire street erupted in screams. But before we begin, if you're drawn to stories with mystery, meaning, and the otherworldly, to legends passed down as truth, then this is the channel for you. I share new stories each week, drawn from folklore, forgotten history, and strange events that linger at the edge of belief. So tap the like button and subscribe with all notifications on so you never miss what's next. Let's begin. Now, before he ever held prayer beads, the monk had held a blade. So originally, he was a samurai. He was known for his strength, but particularly for his precision of sword. So the town still whispered of the battle where he beheaded 3 riders with a single sweep, or of the duel where he split his opponent from collarbone to hip and then bowed as the man collapsed. So this samurai was a stone-cold killer. But all of that killing, all of that death gradually started to take a toll on him. And he started to question, why am I doing this? Even though I was trained to be a samurai, I have executed this profession exactly as it's supposed to be done, but you know what? I don't know. I'm looking at all the greed and the bribing and all the stuff. Like, what am I even fighting for? Why? Like, am I killing good people? Am I killing bad people? I can't tell anymore. And eventually, his lord's estate fell to treachery. So at that point, he sheathed his sword for the last time. He went to the local temple. He shaved his head. And he said, I want to be a monk. I want to change my ways, and began again. So the first task that they gave him at the temple was simple. They said, wander, beg for alms, learn humility. Before he left, the head monk came to him and said, the path of cultivation begins by walking into the world with empty hands and a quiet heart. The first day, he sets off, and part of him is kind of excited, because he's like, this is okay. I'm starting new. I don't know if I can make up for all the killing, but you want to know what? I think I can change myself. I can change my heart. I can be a better person. I can follow the sutras. I can follow this practice. So he sets out from the temple and he starts walking up. He just starts walking into the mountains. Now, most people would go town to town and they would beg for alms in the town. And he thought, no, I'm just gonna go straight into the mountains. We'll see what happens. So he walks up the mountain. He gets up about halfway. It's starting to get a little dark. He finds this patch of grass and he says, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep on this side of grass. Now, all he had with him was his robe, a small bag, and that was it. He didn't have. He left all of his samurai, his armor, his sword. He left everything behind. He was just totally living the life of a monk, but he was out in the middle of the forest. So he lies down. He's far from any village, and just as he lied down, he heard a voice from the forest yell, "You there, priest! Careful out here. You'll lose your head." And so he looks and he's like, what's going on? And he sees this guy come out of the forest carrying an axe, but he had some wood under his arm as well. And so the monk's a little bit like, okay. As he's approaching, the man says, this road is cursed. Spirits come out night. Hairy ones. You shouldn't be here. So at this point, the monk just smiles and says, I've met bandits and beasts. I can't say I'm afraid of dreams and rumors, though. At this point, the woodcutter, they frowned a little, but he softened and he said, look, I didn't mean to offend you. I've seen things in these hills just really strange things I won't forget. There's, I've heard of people going missing around here. Really, seriously, you should not be out here. And then the monk just still kind of sat there. He didn't say anything. And the woodcutter continued, "Look, don't have much, but there's a room at my place, a fire, a roof. Come, it's better than waking up without your head." And so the monk kind of scanned his face, and he saw no deceit. So he nodded and said, "Okay, please lead the way." So he followed him through this narrow trail up the hillside. They had the roots all on the ground, so it was hard to walk on, and the stones were real slippery. But they finally reached the top, and they came upon this small thatched house. And inside you could see the glow of lamplight. And as they enter, they see 4 other people warming their hands by the fire, 3 women and a man. And they all stand, and they give him this incredibly refined bow. And the samurai, the monk went into samurai mode, and he did, his, like this samurai kind of bow. And then he was like, "Wait a second. Wait, this is a strange place to find such courtesy, right? We're out in the middle of the forest. Where are you guys from?" The woodcutter chuckled, and he said, "Actually, I was a retainer to one of the great lords. But, I was disgraced. I was involved in all kinds of stuff. I was a drunk, the whole thing. I don't really want to get into it. Now, the guards, they came for me, but I had a tip. I knew they were coming, so me and a few of my friends, we fled. This was a few years ago at this point, and we've been living up here ever since by ourselves." Now, the monk detected no bitterness in what he was saying, more of just fatigue. The woodcutter continues, I pray every night that I'll find a way to make it right. Until then, I offer what I can to any stranger who stumbles by. So the monk, he bowed deeply. He said, "Then I will pray for you tonight." He continues and says, "Actually, before I became a monk, because I'm a new monk. I used to be a samurai. And so I have a history as well. So I understand where you guys are coming from." And so then they all kind of chuckled, and so I guess we've all got a little bit of a history. And they sat around the fire for a bit and chatted some more. And then the monk said, I'm going to go to my room, and I'm going to read some of the sutras. I'll meditate, and then I'm going to go to bed. I want to thank you for your hospitality. And so the woodcutter shows him to his room, and the others say, "Yeah, let's call it a night." And they all go to their room, go to bed. And so after the monk was done reading his scriptures, he sits down to meditate, and he's sitting in meditation. Now, as he's meditating, he feels something in the air is off. There's like a shift in silence. Now, first he thought, "Oh, I must be meditating to some great depth." And then he realized, no, that's not it. This is my samurai sense kicking in. Something's not right. And so he's like, "You know what? I'm just going to go check on the others, make sure everything's okay. Maybe I'll peek around outside, see what I can find." And so he first goes and he sees people sleeping. They're still there. But then he looks a little bit closer, and he realized the bodies don't have heads. Wait, what? He looks even closer, and he's like, okay, there's no blood. It's just clean open necks. Now, the monk didn't panic, but he kind of went back into samurai mode at this point. And he remembered stories about ghouls whose heads would detach from their bodies at night, and they would float through the air. They would hunt insects, and sometimes they would hunt people. Now, these heads had to return to the body by dawn, or they would die. And so if the body is ever moved and they can't find their body, then then they're gonna die. So at that point, he goes and he takes the woodcutter's body, he drags it out the back of the house, he goes down to the stream, he pushes the body in and lets it float. Okay, so if the body floats away. So at this point, the monk says, okay, he thinks to himself, I gotta see if what's going on here. So he creeps back to the house. He sees the woodcutter's axe sitting right next to the side of the house, next to the pile of wood. He picks that up. He turns it around so it's not the sharp end, it's the butt of the axe. And he kind of sneaks over. He sneaks into the trees and he looks around, and then he sees in the yard 5 floating heads just snapping up insects and chatting with each other. And he listens. He's really quiet, and he listens closely. And one of them, the woodcutters, he said, the priest's body will be tender. We'll feast before sunrise, but we must wait until he stops meditating. Then another head, the youngest woman, went to check. But when she returned, she had panic in her eyes. He's gone. And your body, it's missing. So the woodcutter just loses it at that point. He lets out this shriek, and it seems like the leaves in the trees start to shake. No, he's doomed me. I cannot return now. I will die. Unless I take his body. So at this point, the heads all start scanning the woods, looking. And they see one of them there, behind the tree. And so they all flew. 5 floating heads going straight for the tree. Now, fortunately, at this point, the monk was ready. He jumps out, gets in samurai stance, and just whack, knocks one on the head, hits it hard and fast. It goes flying. And another one comes, whack, whack. And then 2 came at once. So he hits one, and the other one, the woodcutter, comes and just latches right onto his arm. Just this deep, this death grip. He takes the butt of the axe and he tries to knock it off. That doesn't work. And then he goes against the tree and he grabs the top of his head. He grabs the hair of the head and just starts slamming it into the tree over and over until it stops biting deeper, but it still is just latched on. So he's got this head just kind of just latched onto the side of his arm, and he tries everything. He tries to jimmy the mouth open. He tries whatever he can. He can't get the head off his arm. Now, at that point, the other heads had fled. They did not want any part of this. And he thinks, okay, well, I need to go. I guess I need to go back to the temple. I don't know what I need to do. I need to go back into town. I need to get this head thing resolved. And so he starts the long walk down the mountain with this head attached to his arm. And by dawn, he reaches the town. So at this point, people are starting to come out, and the town just absolutely lost it. They see a monk, walking around with this decapitated head on his arm. That's what they think. And there's women fainting in the street, children just running, having no idea what to do. Immediately, the guards run over and say, okay, that's it. We're taking you to the magistrate. This is murder. They drag him away. He hears, as he's walking, villagers whispering, that's no priest. That's a killer from the old wars. I remember his face. He's beheaded dozens. He's just pretending to be a monk. So at this point, they go to the magistrate's office. The senior judge steps forward. What is all this commotion? He comes out, but he doesn't have a freak out like everyone else. He just sees the head attached to his arm, and he goes, "Okay, what do we got here? Let's take a look." And then the guards are saying, "Oh, he killed this guy," everything. The monk said, I didn't kill anyone. This thing attached, it's some sort of ghoul. I don't know what's going on." The old judge comes and looks, and he sees that in fact there is no blood, there is no cut mark. It's just smooth, it's clean, And so he looks closer and he sees on the back of the neck of the head latched to his arm, these characters, these red characters burned into the skin. The old judge says, "I've seen this before. This is a ghoul. He speaks the truth." So they all turned to the monk and said, "What?" And the monk continues to explain. Well, he explained the whole story, what happened, and they put the body in the water, and they all came at him. And then he just came back down here. So he said, "Okay, guards, they got whatever tools they could find. They finally got the head pried off. They took it. They had the whole thing burned. And at that point, the monk had actually, word had gotten out that the monk had saved the town." That's what they're saying. They're saying these things were gonna come and get us, and whether they were or not, it wasn't clear. But the town was like, this guy saved us. This monk saved us. It's great to have this samurai monk. So then the monk said, "I am going to continue my journey. I have just started. This is just the first step." And so they give him some supplies, some food. They leave. Everyone's at that point waving bye to him and saying, "Oh, he was a holy man. Yes, he saved us." And so he goes to continue his journey. And he finds a nice little campsite beside the river, not far from the town, at the bottom of the mountain. And he goes to drink a little bit of water, and he looks at his reflection in the water, but something's off. He looks a little bit closer, and he sees it's not his reflection, it's the woodcutter. And then as he's looking, he's like trying to understand what's going on, and he hears a thud. And he turns around and he sees on the ground, right next to the river, is his body, his own body, the monk's body, without a head. And then he realized, wait, I'm just a floating head. And then he heard the voice of the woodcutter. "I told you, you'd lose your head out here." This tale, drawn from old Japanese folklore, reminds us that some monsters don't vanish when you destroy them. They linger in silence, in memory, in what they take with them. Those ghouls who detach their heads and float are feared for their hunger, but the real horror is the lingering grip of evil, the wounds that don't just bleed but never fully heal. It's not just the monster that haunts you, it's what remains long after it dies. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and share this story with someone who still believes the most dangerous spirits are the ones you never see coming. I'll see you in the next story.